brutal decree forced communal cotton cultivation. Imagine a village in the Matumbi Hills. The sun is unrelenting. You are forced to leave your own shamba, where you grow corn and beans to feed your children, to work on a state-run plantation. You are not paid. If you slow down, the kiboko whip, made of sun-dried hippopotamus hide, finds your back. The Germans utilized the Akita system, appointing local outsiders as tax collectors and enforcers. These men were often more brutal than the Europeans themselves. By 1904, the soil was screaming, and the people were starving. The social fabric of over 20 different ethnic groups, the Matumbi, the Ngoni, the Yao, was being shredded. This wasn't just a tax, it was the systematic erasure of African autonomy. The resentment was a subterranean fire, silent but white-hot, waiting for a single breath of wind to turn it into an inferno. The people needed more than just a leader. They needed a miracle to bridge the gaps between their divided tribes. In the dark forests near the town of Ngarambe, a man named Kinjekitile Ngwale disappeared into a pool of the Pangani River. Legend says he was pulled underwater by a spirit, a great snake called Hongo. When he emerged, he didn't just bring back a message. He brought a weapon. He called it Maji. This sacred water, a mixture of water, castor oil, and millet seeds, was presented as a divine shield. Kinjekitile's message was revolutionary. If you drink this water, and if you stand united, the white man's bullets will turn into water upon impact. To a modern ear, this sounds like superstition. To a colonized soul in 1905, it was a profound psychological technology. Kinjekitile achieved the impossible. He united tribes that had spent centuries raiding one another. He utilized a chain letter system of recruitment. Pilgrims would travel hundreds of miles in secret to Ngarambe, receive the Maji, and carry it back to their villages. They were bound by a sacred oath of umoja, unity. Under the very noses of the German authorities, a massive, inter-ethnic underground network was being built. The Maji was the glue. It was the first time these people saw themselves not as Matumbi or Pogoro, but as one people against a common oppressor. The silence broke in July 1905. It started with a symbolic act of defiance. The Matumbi people began uprooting cotton plants in the hills near Samanga. It was a declaration of war against the German economy. Within weeks, the rebellion surged like a tidal wave toward the coast. Trading posts were razed, and Akitas were hunted down. The Germans were caught completely off guard. They had dismissed the local population as docile and primitive. Suddenly, they were facing a coordinated, multi-front insurgency. The rebels moved with a terrifying confidence born of the Maji. They didn't hide, they marched. In these early months, the rebels saw success. They liberated entire districts, forcing German officials to flee to the safety of coastal forts. The Maji Maji chant became a psychological weapon, echoing through the forests and striking fear into the hearts of the vastly outnumbered German Schutztruppe. For a brief, shining moment, it looked as though the colonial experiment in East Africa was over. But the rebellion was about to meet the cold, mechanical reality of 20th century European warfare. Mahenge was the strategic heart of the interior. If the rebels took the fort, the German interior was lost. On August 30th, 1905, over 5,000 Mbunga and Pogoro warriors emerged from the elephant grass. They were led by their Jumbe, chiefs, and every man was drenched in the sacred Maji. Inside the fort, Captain von Hassel had only 60 men and 2 Maxim machine guns. As the thousands of warriors charged in wide, disciplined lines, von Hassel waited. He waited until they were so close he could see the millet stalks tucked into their belts. Then he gave the order. The Maxim gun changed the history of Africa in 20 minutes. It fired 600 rounds a minute. The rebels, believing the bullets would turn to water, did not flinch. They walked directly into a wall of lead. Wave after wave was cut down. The miracle never came. The field before Mahenge became a carpet of the fallen. It was more than a military defeat. It was a spiritual crisis. The Maji had failed to stop the bullets, and the invincibility of the movement was shattered. The rebels retreated into the bush, but the Germans were no longer content with just winning battles. When the Germans realized they couldn't hunt the rebels through the dense bush, they decided to kill the environment that sustained them. They called it Hunger Krieg, the Hunger War. Under the command of Governor von Götzen, German troops began a scorched earth policy of unimaginable cruelty. They didn't just burn the villages, they burned the crops. They smashed the clay pots used for storing grain. They poisoned the wells. They slaughtered the livestock and left it to rot. The goal was simple: to make the country a desert so that the rebels have no place to hide. The results were apocalyptic. While 15,000 died in actual combat, the famine killed nearly 300,000. Mothers watched their children waste away. Whole regions were depopulated. The rebellion didn't end with a surrender. It ended with the silence of the grave. The German strategy was effective, but it left a stain on their colonial record that would eventually contribute to their loss of the territory after World War I. The Hunger War remains one of the most overlooked genocides of the 20th century. By 1907, the Maji Maji Rebellion was over. Kinjekitile Ngwale was led to the gallows. Even as the noose was placed around his neck, he remained defiant. His final words were, "The Maji has already been sown. It will sprout one day." For 50 years, it seemed he was wrong. The Germans, and later the British, ruled with an even tighter grip. But beneath the surface, the seed was growing. The Maji Maji Rebellion had taught the people of East Africa a lesson they would never forget, that their strength lay in unity, not in the tribe. When Julius Nyerere began the struggle for independence in the 1950s, he didn't start from scratch. He pointed back to the Maji Maji as the moment the nation of Tanzania was born. It was the baptism of fire that created a national identity. Today, the rebellion is a cornerstone of Tanzanian history, a story of tragic loss, but also of the unyielding human spirit. The water didn't turn bullets into mist, but it did wash away the divisions of the past, paving the long, bloody road to freedom.